Informational meeting, you know that, right? Okay. All right, let's get rolling. Good evening and welcome to the East Hempfield Township January 17th meeting of the Traffic Commission. Tonight's meeting has been advertised to be held in person and online using Zoom with login and call-in information posted on our website. If you're on Zoom and want to be recognized, use the chat function, text your name and address to the moderator, and that will be forwarded on to me. You know, our regular procedures for public participation in meetings will apply, even though it's on Zoom. With that, I'd like to open the meeting with a moment of silence and of the pledge. The pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to begin by saying that our meeting tonight is an informational meeting. It's informational from the standpoint of the 3 members of the Traffic Commission won't officially be on the Traffic Commission until our Board of Supervisor meeting later today. At the same time, I wanted to be sure that we had our meeting to give everyone an idea of how things are going to go procedurally. So typically we have an agenda. We've had the call to order, and typically we have action items. An action item would be the minutes from our 12/20 meeting, which at this point are going to be tabled until the next meeting. Our third item on our agenda is our traffic report, which comes from Mrs. Schweitzer or the chief.
During the past month-ish, we spent a significant amount of time down at Orville and Farmingdale. For the second month, we spent a lot of time down there.
Chief, can you use your mic, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. A significant amount of enforcement time down at Farmingdale and Orville. We put in about 18 hours of time down there.
Chief Brubaker did condense a report from last year because some of the items were closed, so that's why it's very short, but it'll grow as the year moves forward.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
So with the traffic report, Chief, you said you spent a lot of time down in Orville, and we have a new member. And I know he's attended these meetings before, but just maybe give him what some of the issues are
Issues that we've been seeing down there, sure. So since the traffic calming had been put in a few months ago, we have vehicles that are traveling northbound on Farmingdale from Marietta towards Harrisburg Pike that can no longer make the left-hand turn that make it anyways into the oncoming lane of traffic from Orville that is to go south on to Farmingdale. So we have people navigating that incorrectly, as well as traffic going from Harrisburg Pike to Marietta that goes into the left lane at the intersection around the pork chop and just continue to go towards Marietta that way.
Yeah, my experience with that area is like, driving through there a year ago, it wasn't set up the way it is now. Can you just give us a brief history of like something changed, right? And, I wasn't really paying attention, but all of a sudden I saw that
Sure.
what
Sure,
I
sure.
guess was called the pork chop in the road.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was
Um,
just wondering, can you just like, what changed and when and why?
Sure, there was some work that the township had to do for a PennDOT grant for intersection improvement, Marietta and Good. So that part of the intersection at Orville and Farmingdale was part of some work to mitigate some traffic that supported both the light at Orville and Good Drive as well as Marietta and Good. So it's I would say it's August, September. Does that sound about right? I'll look at one that looks at it every day. That as far as when that pork chop, so to speak, went into play. And a lot of so we've been trying to mitigate some traffic concerns down there
Okay.
as a
But-
result.
Could just back up maybe one
Sure.
more step, is their residents on Farmingdale, maybe 3, 4, approached the township in 2015 maybe, and said, hey, there's a problem. We heard that there's crossing is going to be built, wasn't built yet. And we're concerned about the cut through traffic
Mhm.
from that crossings to, through their neighborhood, which is primarily residential. So we took that complaint and we eventually had a charrette at the church there at the corner of Farmingdale and Marietta. And from that, we had great attendance. The residents did not want the road closed. They didn't, that was an option. I think actually this option came from a resident that said, why don't you try this? This might work. Our traffic engineer took a look at it. He designed it, he engineered it. This was part of the 3 phases of the Farmingdale project, which we come to know and love. But that Farmingdale project was Marietta and Good. It increased the lanes there, the turning lanes. Orville and Good was a new traffic signal. And then the third part of this was the Farmingdale Orville pork chop, so to speak, that you see out there now. That pork chop was required to make the warrants, PennDOT HOP warrants for the traffic light at Orville and Good. So we had to divert that traffic. And at that point, we didn't know what that traffic was. We had to divert the traffic to get that permit for that traffic signal.
Okay. And the speed bumps that are on Farmingdale Road, is that part of this or nothing to do with that?
Those were put in prior to anything happening as a result of a complaint from the town, from a resident in the neighborhood. And that was at a point in time where the traffic commission supported somewhat putting traffic humps in, which is why you also see the ones on Farmingdale and Barcrest and Boulevard.
And Mrs. Switzer, I would add that we did have traffic studies that showed that not just was there cut through traffic, but there was a speeding issue, a significant speeding issue on Farmingdale Road. And then from there, what happened is we put those speed bumps in, and then it diverted the traffic throughout other areas in the neighborhood. And it really is a lesson for us to learn as we move forward with other neighborhoods. We often get, complaints of speeding. Please put up a speed bump. And this is exactly a good example of why we should really take a very methodical approach to that. The neighbors came in on the side streets because the traffic was now being diverted down there in their direction, and they all wanted speed bumps. So now we have a development that has, in my view, way more than its fair share of speed bumps. And I don't know that that was the right solution that we made for that. So before we decide to take anything out, we wanted to finish the project and make the improvements on Marietta and Good Drive before we did anything to mitigate or remove some of the speed bumps, which would be another change to the neighborhood. Some will want it, some will not. And that's kind of the situation now. What we have is that the improvements on Orville Road have really caused some unintended consequences. Specifically, we have a resident here tonight who's had to endure quite a bit. So I do believe we're owed some recommendations from our traffic engineer.
Mr. Bauer will be at our regular meeting. It's early in the agenda, so you won't have to wait too long. But he will be here to review his findings that he has done for us.
So I do think it's something we definitely need to tackle.
We
when-
have created now a methodical approach to speed concerns. We go out, we are actually methodically going through the township, and each roadway is getting a speed study. If we get complaints, they're moved up on the list, and those studies are then reviewed by the traffic commission to see if there's any problems, if it's significant concerns. And at that point in time, we would look to the traffic engineer to look for recommendations of changes or improvements or reducing traffic flow somehow. We haven't had to do that. We've been monitoring them. A lot of times, traffic is moving faster than a resident might, appears to be moving faster than what they actually are, because they're standing along the roadway and seeing traffic go past them very quickly. We have found that mostly the traffic studies we have done have not been significant enough to do anything further. But you can see those traffic studies on the website under the Traffic Commission.
And you can also, on the website, you can get a complete picture of this Farmingdale Road, Orville, Marietta Avenue project from start to finish. It'll go back 3, 4, 5 years in the planning. To address your question particularly.
Mr.
what's
Bennett, can you
changed?
use your microphone, please?
Okay. To address your question particularly, what's changed over there? We've had a significant improvement in the intersection at Marietta and Nold. We've also had a light put in at Orville and Nold. And we have this, and both of those intersections are working exactly as designed. The pork chop that we've put in, while it works, it's not optimal, and we have some issues with it that we have to deal with. So that's what we'll be talking about at our Board of Supervisor meeting at 7 o'clock. But long story short is there's a lot of good things happening there on those roads. Some not so good, but we'll work on that. Cindy got into this, the traffic study. We do traffic studies from time to time. We usually have 2 or 3 going at a time. So, and Paddington here is the latest. And not that we can take action on it. Do we have any recommendations on this particular speed study?
So Paddington came specifically to the police department. So we, at this point, the numbers didn't quite support the complaint. It is a downhill stretch of roadway,
Exactly.
in a residential area. So, once the weather turns a little bit, it's certainly an area that we can put our message or speed sign out, something to that. It's primarily going to be a lot of residents that are using that. I can't imagine too many are cutting from Knoll over to Spring Valley using Paddington. I could be wrong. But I'm not sure we'll be doing a whole lot of enforcement, but we certainly can put some advisory message boarding out there.
But it looks like some type of modification is not necessary.
Correct.
Okay. All right. We've talked a little bit about Farmingdale and Orville. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak now, or you can speak later at our Board of Supervisor meeting? Would probably be more appropriate when we have our traffic engineer here with us here tonight. But you are welcome to speak now if you like. Okay, sounds good. Ma'am, are you here for Orville?
No.
Okay, got you. So that's old business. The other old business, it's not on the agenda. But how are we doing with truck signage on our truck routes? Has that process begun yet?
We pretty much are, that's going to be a spring project. So we probably need to gear up with Mr. Bauer to decide what the signage will say and then the specific locations. And then Public Works will put them in. there's not a whole lot we can do until the weather kind of warms up that we can get out there.
And it doesn't sound like there's much of a plan, at least right now. There
No.
will be, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would anticipate probably by their next meeting, we'll probably have those, know the locations and have them ordered so that they can probably go in early March if the weather holds out.
Okay. Thank you.
So if I understood that correctly, well, at our next traffic commission meeting, there should be some type of
Timeline.
diagram or
Mhm.
something on where they're gonna go and what they're
Yes.
gonna say.
Yes,
Okay.
I think that's fair to say.
Okay, with that, do we have any new business to discuss tonight? Any new business? No new business. Okay. And any public comment? Doesn't look like it for right now. Anything on Zoom? We don't have anybody on Zoom, I don't
Andrew.
believe.
Just
Perry
Perry
and-
and the secretary.
Right. Okay. All right, seeing nothing else to deal with tonight, gonna mark this meeting ended at 6:20.
Did you find out about those developments?
Yeah, so Nate reached out
Hold on.
to
Hold
Casella
on.
and left him another message.